Welcome back to Focus on Literary Devices with myself, Descriptionary's Angela Abraham. In previous episodes, we have talked about imagery, word choices, symbolism, metaphor, simile, personification, repetition, alliteration, onomatopoeia, pace, cadence, and anthropomorphization. Apparently, you're supposed to say anthropomorphism. In my defense, I grew up in the days before the internet existed, and I think that's what people said around me. But I will make some effort to say anthropomorphism rather than anthropomorphization, but no promises. It's pretty ingrained at this point. All right. Today we are going to talk about repetition. Yes, we are repeating the repetition lesson. The reason for that is it's a very varied technique. It's also my favorite technique, and we're going to look at some ways repetition can show up in writing. Of course, you may well invent your own way of doing it, and that's fine. The key to repetition working is that it has to feel deliberate and poetic to the reader. If repetition feels accidental, then the reader won't like it. They will think that the writing is bad and that don't you even own a thesaurus. But as soon as you make it poetic and make it feel deliberate, then the response will be, wow, you really know how to write. This is good. So let's take a look at those examples. The first one we've done before, but we read it when I was talking about anthropomorphism. And today we are looking at repetition again. All right. The butterfly was a caper upon a carol of daffodils, daffodils singing out their colours, daffodils dancing out their blues. Its wings opened as a picture book, one of childhood days, fluttering as pages turned by a youthful hand. My gaze formed a ribbon, one of velvet light, from my heart to this insect of purest delight. If a life is to be measured in motes of joy, not in years, then am I not already the elder of so many peers? Perhaps it is the artist's way, is it not? To see, to feel, to fold themselves into Mother Nature. All right. The first bit of repetition we see is daffodils. It's used here as a form of stutter repeat. And then again, it's here. That's 3 uses of the word daffodils in the first sentence. That's one form of repetition. Let's look for another one. I'm going to read it and then identify them as I find them. Its wings opened as a picture book, one of childhood days, fluttering as pages turned by a youthful hand. My gaze formed a ribbon, one of velvet light, from my heart to this insect of purest delight. If a life is to be measured in motes of joy, not in years, am I not already the elder of so many peers? Perhaps it is the artist's way to see, to feel, to fold themselves into Mother Nature. So here we've got perhaps. That's a fairly obvious form of repetition to draw attention to a word other people might miss. This one here is a form of combination of repetition with cadence. without the cadence and pacing, it wouldn't be noticeable, and therefore it wouldn't perform the function of repetition. The repetition is partly to do with the repeat of the word to, but it's also partly because we've got the sense of these two words belong together, to feel and to fold. Additionally, part of the repetition comes down to this sense of alliteration. So to understand why that's repetition, you also need to have a sense of pace and cadence and a sense of alliteration. And that's why I left this part 2 of repetition a little bit later, because otherwise it doesn't make sense, because I will be using too many definitions that we hadn't at that point talked about. One technique that you probably already know that I haven't done an individual episode on is rhyming. And this one does use rhyming quite a lot. You've got light and delight, and there's also peers and years. I don't use rhyming that often, but sometimes it is super effective. It's fun, it's playful, and it brings a poetic sense to the writing. All right, back to repetition. A cashmere butterfly alighted upon a bloom of dollar roundness and of dollar hue. Above it shone a daytime moon, for the sun, though flambeau bright, was quite out of sight, cosseted, cosy, ensconced within a fresh wash of cloud. And then, in greatest number, as if each were summoned by a different blossom, a flock fluttered down. Upon that green disk they were nature's living crown. There was something so transporting in the expanse of that idle post-noon, a dream, a wish most pleasant, a sauntering sense of wonder. And so it was, with blithest serenity, that the advancing lit hours bowed to starlight's entreaty. So again there, I'm using a few archaic words, but let's focus on the repetition. I've got a bloom and a bloom as a stutter repeat. I repeated the word dollar several times. I've got dollar roundness and dollar hue. Right. Let's do. Beyond that, there is also rhyming in there. And we've got the flock that fluttered down, it's nature's living crown. All right, let's move on. The pulse of her tender wings, the butterfly, and my heartbeat were as one, solemn and lamenting. Each of us were near silent, each of us were near frozen, each of us were alone and together in the humid moment, for the air was bloated, heavy, and close. It was a gloomy saturation. Lady Light, it seemed, had forgotten her warm lit songs and instead found the skin in cool bluish rays. Even the floral scent was sunken, though I cannot fathom how. In all of this, as companion and barometer sat the butterfly. What I felt, she felt it too. Those paper wings cannot lie. In terms of repetition, we have each of us were near silent, each of us were frozen, each of us were alone and together in the humid moment. The repetition is mostly performed by the repeat of each of us were. That group of words is strong repetition. However, there is also a sense of pace and cadence there. All right, I hope you've enjoyed this repeat of repetition. Next time we will do our review. I hope you have a wonderful week. Until then, bye-bye.